everyone, welcome to TriEssence martial art channel. Another episode of Start Deconstructed, where we're going to look at Tai Chi application. And today, this is probably one of the crowd's favorite, right? Brushing knee. And it's probably one of the most misunderstood moves within Tai Chi. And as always, we're going to first start by emphasizing that we're going to be analyzing these moves based on two criteria, right? Firstly, outcome razor. How difficult or complex the move need to be for it to be pulled off. The more complicated it is, the less likely that's the correct interpretation. And secondly, we're going to be using the concept of the master key of whether this is a generalized approach or only work in a specific situation. With these two things in mind, let's first look at a few examples. Now, the first example that comes to mind, I didn't even bother finding an example of it because everyone should know it, right? Is that people often interpret brushing knee to be like a leg counter. Basically, he throws me a low kick, I catch it, and I punch him or I push him off. Now, this is a move that you often see, whether it's in Sanda, I think they have it in Muay Thai as well, and also obviously in MMA, and probably kickboxing. I'm not too sure about the last one. And this looks like a very plausible interpretation because it's very practical, it's straightforward, it's used a lot in combat sports, so we know it is practical. Only problem is it doesn't really communicate, or it doesn't really fit the way this move is. Because if you think about it, if I want to do a leg counter, right, then I'm going to have to catch the leg this way. Well, at least that's how most people interpret it as. And this is not how brushing knee is being done. If you look at the form, the hand goes inwards like this. Okay, so that can't, is exact opposite direction of this. If this move was made for leg counter, like this one, the move should be moving inwards. Okay, and there are styles that has like moves like this. So those will probably be interpreted as a leg counter. But this one, it does not fit the move. This is a scenario where you have to alter the move to fit the interpretation, and that's always problematic because that's not how you should do things, right? You need to look at the move and then try to figure out what the move is for, not changing the move to fit the right application. So I don't believe this is how it is done. Of course, I've seen people who do the other way. So you do a kick, you catch it this way, and then you do the push. And this is almost like the single whoop that we talked about previously, right? The original General Chi Guang single whoop, where they do this and that. So this is almost like this. And this could be a valid interpretation because it kind of fits the move. The hand goes out, hand pushes forward. However, the problem with this interpretation is you need to ask the question: why does the hand need to come all the way from here? If it's just a leg counter, then the move could just start from here, right? Like in single whoop from Chi Guang, right? It goes like this, and then a push. It doesn't have to come this way. So why, and also why the hand goes like this, right? That is the thing that doesn't make sense. If he's kicking and my hand is going like this, he's gonna kick me. It's not gonna work. I need to start this thing right from here low for this to work. So if the move actually just do this, I would agree with this interpretation. But because it is not, this while is applicable, it can't be the correct interpretation. So next, let's look at some YouTube random sampling.
By following right here at the wrist. I follow at the wrist, I bring his hand down and around and seat over to my side center. So if he comes in, now...
Okay, so the problem with this approach is that I think it is fairly close to the correct one, except the movement on the arm is too little. So the guy throws a punch, okay, but he basically does this and then hit him. The problem with that is if you're only intercepting the fist, it's much easier for him to get loose and pull back. When you're intercepting the fist, right, you need a smaller move, like a check, because it's also quick. So I can do it very quickly, and when he's pulled back, I'm already trying to hit him. But if I'm intercepting the fist with a move like this, there's a chance that he's going to pull back, and then I'm not going to be able to affect him. So even if I do connect to him, I don't have enough control of his arm to actually upset his balance, because I'm only intercepting wrist and hand. And then so in doing so, I can't ensure that I can keep his hand there. He can easily pull it back, and that makes the move not work. So even though I do think he's on the right track, I don't agree with the place of interception, and obviously the lack of mechanics that disrupt your opponent's force, which is also very important, as we talked about in the previous video, right? About 引进落空, how you're supposed to lure the opponent's force in and make him miss and unbalance him and then hit him. So that's the problem with this interpretation. Now let's see the next one.
This happened, but I'm too solid, so I'm not flying back. So now is the big step, and the brush knee, and the push.
So this example obviously doesn't work based on simply Occam's razor, right? Because he requires someone punches, I'm going to catch his arm, and then when he's pulling his arm back, then I'm going to hold his knee and then push him off balance. And he even very creatively talks about brushing knee, brushing your opponent's knee and then pushing. The problem is, you can't just walk up to a guy and do this to him. In fact, it's very uncomfortable to actually reaching for his knee. I have to bend quite low to reach his knee and pull it to the side, and in doing so, expose my entire face. Right? Even if I have this hand here, he's got the other hand. So this is very bad. You can't just come out of the woodlock and do this. And obviously, if you absolutely have to catch his arm first and then do this, it's so narrowly fitting that you're not going to be able to use it for 99% of the encounter, unless you can always catch a guy's hand. And catching a guy's hand in itself is extremely hard, right? If you don't know that already. Someone actually knowing how to throw a punch, you're not going to be able to do that. And that's why this entire approach is too situational, too complicated. It hinders on other things have to first be true and first work before you can even apply this move. And that just simply doesn't make sense. Especially when you look at in the form, single whoop doesn't start off with this. That's not how the move goes, right? I mean, there's a few ways that you start the move. Initially, it's from wide crank, right? And then later on, if you do 2 of it, it becomes, 手挥琵琶式, and then you carry on. There's a few ways that you can go into single whoop, and I don't think that is meant to be a combo. It's just how the form is the sequence one after another. And the fact that brushing knee, it gets repeated so many times, shows that it's not specific to one combo. It's a generalized move that you can just pick up and use. And that's why I don't think this interpretation makes any sense. Now the third one. Again, this is just an overly complicated approach, right? So for this one to work, we're gonna just switch around. It requires us to be first in this situation, and then I have to basically catch around him and then push him off that way. Okay. So the problem with this is that firstly, it's very unlikely to be in this situation to begin with. Okay, maybe we can say that in like a clinch we can get it, but in that situation, it's very hard for me to actually get around there. Okay, anyone who has some basic reaction is not gonna let his arm be like this. I mean, sure you can say that in Muay Thai when they clinch, the elbow is keep compacted. Yes, but the thing is, the moment I'm trying to reach my hand over, which is a big move, right? He's gonna react. He's not gonna let me trap his arm like this. This is very unlikely to happen. And if I already trap his arm like this, I can just keep applying force here and then punch him. I don't need to come up and then do a push like they do in brushing knee. So again, this in my opinion is an example of where he's kind of trying really hard to shoehorn this dreadlock into fitting the move of brushing knee. But in fact, he's not even countering for the brushing knee. If I do this move, I don't need this hand to do this. Right? I can just do that, and it will be the same thing. But then that wouldn't make sense because the move is called brushing knee. So this must be an important thing, the starting of the move. But this interpretation neglects the first portion, only focus on what this arm is doing. And again, it's so complicated and unlikely to be pulled off in a real fight. At the moment, if a guy's here, I'm going to do that, he's going to just pull his arm back. He's not going to, let me kind of complete this, right? And even if I'm doing here, he can just grab my back from the other hand, like here, right? Oh, and you can like choke my neck. No, yeah, you can do that, or you can just go around and choke my neck through that. Yeah, you see, there's so many things that he can do when I'm. I mean, obviously in the video they talk about hitting him first and then doing that. Again, if I actually hit him there already, I don't need to then do this complicated joint lock. If I'm hitting him on the neck like this, he should be gone. And if he's not, I can just punch him in the head again. There's much simpler things to do. The fact that you kind of go here and then you try to do this, it's just trying very hard to fit in this move. But it's not logical and it's not generalizable. You can't generalize this to all situations. It's very specific, and that's why I don't agree with this interpretation. Okay, now that we look at a few examples of what I don't think is a correct interpretation, then let's talk about what I believe is a correct interpretation. So in this case, my Tai Chi lineage and my Wasington Bay is slightly different. They don't agree. Sometimes they have the same understanding or similar. Sometimes they don't. This is a case where they don't agree. So I'm going to talk about both. So firstly, let's look at this move, right? So generally in Yang style Tai Chi, it will start from wide crank, right? And then the third hand will go down. It will come here, and that's the first brushing knee, and then it will come here. The second one, and depending on this, the different sequences. In some sequence, it goes here and it comes back to 皮巴式, and then it kind of goes into more brushing knee. But what we can basically synthesize from that is that firstly, the first one usually starts with two hands, so one hand, two hands, or the other way. And then after that, it's usually just one hand. So if I'm here, then third hand will basically draw a circle, and then that hand comes forward, and then that hand will draw a circle, and that hand comes forward. So the no-brainer and the very obvious thing is that this is a defensive maneuver that covers most of your sphere, and that basically supports the idea, our idea of generalization of master key. So I'm not concerned about exactly what kind of punches or attack, whether it's like a finger jab, a palm strike, a fist. I don't really care. As long as it's something within this vicinity, I'm gonna be able to get hold of. Okay, and next thing, right? The hand kind of moves like this, so that hand kind of comes close, and then it pushes forward towards the body, and that's what is called brushing knee, right? In Chinese we call it 搂膝拗步. So 搂膝 refers to brushing knee, 拗步 refers to this type of inverse stepping. So when you step with the left and hitting with the right, that's basically what 拗步 means. So the inverse stepping, and then your hand kind of just goes in front of the knee. Now the reason why your hand will go in front of the knee is basically to weigh down on him and to disrupt his balance, right? Which was correlated to my previous video. And so basically, essentially, if his arm is here, I want to be able to intercept him. Again, right, I'm letting him coming in so that his force is kind of expressed. But in doing so, I'm diverting it or dissolving it technically. And then I'm applying body structure. And notice that I don't intercept by the fist or the wrist, but more on the forearm. At this point is where I can actually weigh him down with my body structure. And once I'm doing that, the reason I want this thing to go down is that it draws his weight forward. Okay? And then that is what allows me to connect. If I simply just, if he does a punch and I just do this and hit back, it can work, I'm not saying it can't, but it lacks that certainty of disruption of weight. But if he's throwing a punch and I'm doing this, it gives me better chance of hitting him. I feel the difference between the two. Yeah. Obviously, the downside to it is when you invest this much, you have to be sure you can't miss. But if you do connect, it pulls him forward and doesn't allow him to escape. And the reason why when you start off, the hand goes here, there's two reasons, right? Firstly, when I'm doing this, I'm basically preventing that hand from doing something funny. So I'm kind of occupying that space. Also, it allows me to then get into the position of hitting. And obviously, when you hit, similar to the previous single whoop. So if you don't know how this hit works, look at single whoop. It's basically not a slap, not an impactful hit, but rather where I hold, I touch him, and then I issue force through the rest of my structure. Another way of looking at this is from a push hand perspective, because you all remember, Tai Chi spends a lot of time doing push hand. So, when we're doing push hand, basically it will be here. And that's basically when, see, this is exactly how the move starts. And then once I'm here, I'm going to be going in and then pulling him out. So that's why the hand kind of goes like this. Another thing to consider, the reason I can do this without be concerning too much about what he's going to do is because, firstly, I'm covering a huge portion of the, of the space, and secondly, I'm kind of going in the sideways motion. So it kind of makes it harder for him to react in a very efficient way. So all I need is basically to have the visual feed that he's going to do something, and I'm just going to go in and hit him. It basically, the way I'm going in makes it harder for him to attack me. Unless he knows exactly what I'm about to do. But otherwise, the moment I'm going to go in like that turning to the side and rotating back, this makes it harder for him to hit. So that's why I don't need to be too concerned about what he's going to do. I don't need to actually see what he's going to do. What I need to know is that he's making a move for it, and I'm going to hit him. And that's how essentially this move, in my opinion, or in my Tai Chi lineage, is done. As you can see, you can basically do this blindly to almost anything. Even if I misread and he's actually doing with that, hand, I can still carry on with the same move. I don't need to change side. Even though ideally there's a left one and there's a right one, but if I made a wrong judgment, it's still fine. I just can't really hit him in the chest, but I can still push him off balance. Not ideal, but doable. And that's is why we keep talking about the master key concept, where something actually fits, kind of works no matter what kind of situation happens. So that's my Tai Chi's lineage's interpretation, right? And most importantly, that you have to have that mechanic. You can't just do a move where you do that and hit him. You have to be able to drag him down and weigh him. So if he's holding a force here, which he doesn't when we do a punch, but just for argument's sake, when he's holding a force here, you want to be able to compress the body and drag him forward. That allows you to hit him without him getting able to get away. So that's important. Now the variation that we have in Wasington Bay is that so this is a situation where if you look at the original Yang style form, the movement is kind of compacted, right? It's like here. The hand is kind of closed. This one usually goes here, and then it goes out. And yeah, and in case you're wondering why the hand goes out that far, it's because traditionally you train the long displacement force first, and then you shorten it into what we call the break force or the burst force. So you train it with a long extended force, but when you hit people, it's only happening here. You don't trying to push someone. That's why in the form the hand is long, but when you use it, it's just there. Alright, so back to Wasington Bay. In Wasington Bay, we have a longer extension of the arm, so we don't do it short like this. Rather, it's long. And we have another name or a side name, right? So this is 楼shiao bu, or we also call it 转环掌, the spinning ring hand. So in essence, it's very similar, but we focus less on weighing down, right? So in the Tai Chi version, we kind of weighs down with the compression, expansion, all the mechanics, and using that to then pull. But in Wasington Bay, it's more of a relaxed sinking force that drops, and we apply it in a more extended version. So instead, it will be like that, and we don't have to dedicate our body into the strike. We simply just stand here and then hit him there. So that's why it's the different, right? It's more of an impact. In Tai Chi, there's some impact, but it's more of a dragging to it. I don't know how to exactly express it, but there's a difference. Whereas in Wasington Bay, we're simply hitting that off. We're not trying to use our structure to weigh it down, pulling forward. When we see a hand coming, we're just going to hit it, and we're going to hit with that hand. So in that way, we can see the influence of Wasington Bay, right? It's kind of different. What we use it.
Well, I know I'll need to read the original scripture.
But I mean, it's the same mechanic, right? But it doesn't feel exactly the same, right?
No, it's definitely see difference. Yeah.
That's why I imagine it would hurt more, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And it's more of like a shock, whereas the first one is more of just a pull.
Yes, yeah, basically.
Yeah, but fundamentally it's the same move. And also in Wasington Bay, we often use two. So so basically do this, right? So whether he hit or not, it'll be like this. And that's also why it kind of is more of a Tongbei expression. Fundamentally, the move is the same. Every time our hand goes, we cover everything that he's about to do. So no matter how he's swinging his punches, I don't really care. He's gonna do this, and I'll catch something, right? And in this case, even if he, straight punch obviously, but even if he hooks, it will still be able to catch him, and it will still be the same. So that's the difference between my Tai Chi lineage and my Wasington Bay lineage. Same mechanic, but the different on interpretation. If you imagine, Wasington Bay one is harder on the impact. You want to hurt somebody's arm, and then you hit him in the face. Whereas in Tai Chi, it's more in line with internal style. You don't want to hurt him on the arm, but you want to disrupt his balance, and then the hit comes to the chest, and you cause kind of an internal pressure to his lungs, knock his air out, rather than hitting him flat in the face. And that'll be the biggest difference between the authentic Tai Chi approach and the Wasington Bay, which is Tai Chi mixed with an external styles approach. Anything you want to add?
It actually reminds me of this that Northern Shaolin move.
Oh, well, you mean that
Yes,
one?
that one.
Yeah, it is similar. I mean, there's only so many ways your body can move, right? So,
Yes, yeah.
so technique-wise, there's always going to be overlap, but obviously, difference is on the mechanic. The Northern Shaolin, the Shaobeiqian version, it doesn't have the same impact or the drag.
Yeah. No.
It's just like a hard arm
Yes.
on arm.
It is.
But in this one, when I hit you, you will feel that heaviness that pulls yourself forward, and that essentially is the difference, right? If you've been watching my Tongbei videos, this should be apparent. But if not, right? Just for argument's sake, you see, you look at his spine and his neck. If I'm just doing like a regular chop, right? But in this case, see that pull, that's the kind of mechanic we want. And the tenser he is, the more pull you're gonna get, which allows me to hit him before he can react. And that is the only thing that separates an external interpretation and an internal one. The move itself is very similar. All right, so I hope that this video has made sense to you and has helped you to re-look at what brushing knees is all about. And, oh yes, and if you wonder why is brushing knee, right? Why is this such a thing? Well, it's because in Tai Chi, your arm has to be aimed down to drag him, right? You can't drag him if your arm is aimed here. So even though if my arm is here, the intent is that my hand's gonna reach for my knee, and in doing so, I'm gonna be able to apply my weight and mechanic to unbalance it. And naturally in Wasington Bay, we inherited that from Tai Chi. So when our hand goes, it goes all the way, or the force goes all the way down. The hand doesn't necessarily have to go to our knees, but the force is aiming downward, and that's why the brushing knee is so important. It's not because we're trying to block the leg, but yeah, it's just that the way the force works. You have to link your hand into going through your knees for the mechanic to fully function. Alright, so I hope this video has made sense to you. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you can support me on Patreon, that would be greatly appreciated. As always, a shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for your support. Feel free to message me anytime if you have any questions on current content or suggestions for future content. And I have a whole list of unique Patreon exclusive videos where I talk about the internal mechanics of Yiquan, Tai Chi, and Wasington Bay. So if you're interested in a scientific approach to internal mechanics, definitely do consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and see you next time. Thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel.